we have to cover both of them, or for the most part, whatever brings up the most games. Right now it's men's just because they're the ones getting all the TV time with Fox, but um, we cover both. So I'm interacting with both of them as we go.
Hey, you doing? What you doing? Like a radio show?
No, Good Day to Paul. That's our TV
Oh,
station.
the TV. All right, yeah,
That's
TV.
the TV.
Okay. Good day, the
Doing the
ball.
morning news.
Uh, Not necessarily the morning news. It's like it's like, especially with COVID, they have us doing like they have us covering pregame, like games from like a week or two in advance or something like that. And then if they come up with if they have a press conference or something, we'll get involved with that. If we have to interview players, we do. 9 times out of 10, we don't. Just covering the game. You do a little highlights package here and there that we get from Fox. Put your own spin on it, stuff like that. To cover the sport as a whole for the sports section of it.
That's what's up.
Okay.
Josh getting on his way to being the next Brian Gumble or whatever.
Hey,
Lawrence Holmes.
Yeah, Lawrence definitely be next Lawrence. Lawrence went to the Paul too. You should probably holler at him.
Oh yeah, for sure. I
Yeah,
talked to him about the
exactly.
call before I even committed over there. So for
Okay.
sure.
Yeah.
okay.
And shout out to Lawrence Holmes. Shout out to those who setting the standard. I just saw a little while ago Cap and Cap and J Hood was named. J Hood had put it on Facebook. They were named one of the top 20 morning sports shows in the nation by Barrett Sports Media. So, and you look at that list. J Hood is one of the few brown faces you see, one of the few chocolate faces you see on that list. As far as the host goes, so definitely big up to J Hood, who has been setting the standard for years
Yes, sir.
in the city. So, we just trying to do what we can to fit in. I don't know how much space will it wind up being for us, but we still gonna do what we do. I do it out of spite, if anything. That's kind of where I'm at nowadays. But anyway, let's bring it up a little bit. This is the Runnin with WARR show. Back on the scene another Thursday, talking a bunch of smiggity smack on basketball throughout the land, NBA, college, whatever you want, man. We might even start talking some high school. I guess they're getting the high school ballers back, and they finally letting them play some. So maybe we'll get into that a little bit in the coming weeks. But we're gonna do primarily today. We're just gonna talk some NBA stuff and some college as well. A couple of teams in the area in Illinois, particularly. They're gear up there in the rankings. They're challenging. That's sort of what we was talking about DePaul, because DePaul was looking like a team that could have been challenging before the year, but they really got smacked up with COVID stuff, and they just been underplaying. It's kind of hard. It's kind of hard when you only play half or a third of the games that you expect to play in the season because cancellations and stuff. But at the same time, you got to take care of yourself. It's just like anything else. You got to take care of yourself if you want to do these type of things out here and playing these games and stuff. If you can't do that and play those games, then how can you expect to be successful and get the wins that you need to get in the tournament and what else, whatever else you want. So, but I will get into that in a little while. It's starting off. Let's talk about some NBA, and let's talk about the Bulls. We can talk about them in a pretty positive fashion. I think coming off of yesterday's game, a record-setting performance for Zach LaVine and Cody White combined for 17 threes. Zach had 9, I believe, and Cody had 8. And surprisingly, they go down as the first duo in NBA history to have 8 or more 3-pointers in a game. You know, not even the Splash Brothers have done that. Zach had a game high 46. Coby with 30, excuse me. And let's start off with that. I mean, the Bulls have been, back and forth. They've had some great performances, not so great performances. Yesterday they played against a team that was strung together a few wins in a row. New Orleans did, but still a team that's underperformed for the majority of this season. And a lot of people focus it too on Ball, on Lonzo, and trying to project him into the Bulls roster. Unfortunately, he didn't have to switch jerseys during his time at the United Center yesterday, but he's still in New Orleans as of now. But the Bulls didn't need him yesterday as far as running the offense go. They got off. What you guys thought about the performance yesterday?
I thought it was amazing that was the first time two teammates had each hit at least 8 threes, man, considering, how prolific those guys in Golden State are. But I think that's owed to the fact that Kerr was typically subbing those dudes out in the third quarter once they had already done all their damage. Mm-hmm. But I think it's a good look, man. It speaks to the potential that those two guys have when they're on the court together. It kind of even makes me want to see Lonzo Ball there even more to see how his facilitating would help them in a catch and shoot game and not have to put the ball on the floor for too many dribbles. In terms of just the game itself and the win, the kind of wild win, I think it's going to be the ebb and flow of this season, man. People were like ready to tank after they lost to Washington, kind of pushing one to put all their chips to the middle of the table to try to secure a higher draft pick. Then after this game, people kind of settled down a little bit, but that's just the Bulls this season, man. They still got a lot to figure out. They've had to rely heavily on their bench. I think it's pretty well known that it hasn't been the core pieces. It hasn't been Wendell or Laurie or Coby or even Zach that's kind of gotten these victories for them or helped them stay in games. It's been the bench. It's been the old guys, the old YMCA heads, man, that have been kind of the glue for that team, which is a little disheartening, even if it is exciting because it's more enjoyable to watch these close games. But, there's a lot of work that still needs to be done. AK and Eversley, I hope they're somewhere getting their plan together. And hopefully it still involves keeping Livin around.
Yeah, I mean, I think for the most part, that talk has died down, but you still hear some of it. But I think it's more so to, in the last week or two, it's been like, this is stupid. We can't do this again. We've done this with D Rose. We've done this with Jimmy. Jimmy Butler, we can't, if we're going to build something here, let's actually keep the guy who's worth building around and not, you use him as bait. No, bait for what? For a draft pick that's maybe going to turn out to be half the player that he's going to be. I don't know. That doesn't make sense.
I'm with you, Kyle, but Kylie brought it up again. Another column today. More so in terms of what
if he wants to play himself that way, that's so him.
In terms of what they want to pay him, and his kind of cutoff mark seemed to be like $25 million, but he thinks that Zach is going to be looking for. I think the max would range out to $30 million, and he wasn't willing to give that extra $5 million because of in his eyes, the less wiggle room the Bulls would have to actually put competent players around them.
Well, that's his budget. If you want to put that extra $5 down, maybe you can start a GoFundMe or something. I don't know, but that is something to think about though, because the Bulls sort of got away. They sort of got a bit of a discount a couple years ago with him because he was a player who had some projections about him and they got him for it was 20 a year, and Sacramento bid on him, and it wasn't enough there, but he's proven to be worth 20 definitely, and I think he's worth 25, and I think if once you get certain contracts off on the back end from this team, you can probably pay him 30 too. And you can, there are teams out there who are paying two players at 30 mil. So the thing is, you want to have enough space to give another person 30 and up to pair with him, but that's not impossible to do if you spend the money right on the back end. If Zach is giving you 28 a game, and he's just entering his prime, give him 30 mil. But you got to make sure that you get another 30 mil guy with him.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think that's the biggest thing, that if anything, that game where both Coby White and Zach LaVine went off and had the historical night, I think that's what really solidified not just Zach's worth, but Coby's worth. Because Coby White himself, there was question marks heading into the season as far as if he can actually be the true traditional point guard that the Bulls want him to be. And the answer at this point is no. Nothing against him, but that's not his skill set. He's a scoring guard. He's the one that can fill up the basket. So if you talk about maybe getting a guy like Lonzo Ball in there without having to get rid of Coby, that could make sense. And you can actually put Coby White in the right position for him to excel in the role that we know he can be, which is a 6-man off the bench. Or if you want to do a 3-guard lineup with another point guard and having Coby play the 2 and move that to the 3, that could be an option too. Especially since Billy Donovan's offense is not ball dominant. It's really supposed to be a lot of ball movement and a lot of ball movement per se. So because of that, if you can make that work, go for it. But at the end of the day, the duo of Zach LaVine and Coby White actually works. If you actually put them in the right positions and let them actually play their games, the backcourt can work. It's what you can do with the other players to put around the right talent around those two for them to excel. And if you have to get rid of Coby White to do that, to get a top-tier player like we talked about earlier, another 30 million guy, hey, you got to do what you got to do. But keeping that backcourt of Coby White and Zach LaVine for the long term, especially since they're both young, and Zach is like Kyle mentioned, Zach is just entering his prime. The sky's the limit with the backcourt that the Bulls already have, especially with more practice over time. The question is what you're going to build around them. And if you don't believe Coby White is that guy, who is that point guard you're going to be able to find to pair with a Zach LaVine or pair with Coby White even in the second unit to actually run that offense efficiently the way they want it to be done? And that's something that comes with a price. We know the Bulls front management and ownership is relatively cheap, but since you got AK and Mark Eversley there, this past offseason kind of proved that, okay, the things might potentially turn because they realize how detrimental the change is needed to put the Bulls back on the right trajectory. Hopefully that could continue into the offseason, but Zach LaVine and Coby White works. But Coby White as your future point guard of this team doesn't. And you just got to, and maybe finding Alonzo Ball, which will be ideal for this team without having to get rid of Coby, you might be talking something there moving forward.
And then I saw something, some opinion on Twitter, I think last night, where it was there was some thought given to coming at holding off for this season and trying to get a run on Lonzo as a restricted free agent in the summer. What do you think about that approach, Josh, as opposed to getting him in the regular season here and making a trade?
I think that's a good option, but it depends on what the Pelicans do, because the Pelicans themselves, they're trying to get value off of a top tier point guard. They know he's a restricted free agent, so if they wanted to come back, they'll pretty much match whatever contract comes their way. But the fact that they're putting him on a trade block, knowing that he's a restricted free agent, shows that they actually want value back in return for this pick for Lonzo. So you got to hope that if he does get traded and it's not to the Bulls, it's to another team, that team themselves and make a pitch or whatever the case may be, if we can give them a nice offer that the other team won't match it, I think it can be done. But it really depends on what the Pelicans do. If they really try to keep Lonzo, or if they end up keeping him, or if they actually ended up trading him because of the fact they want so much, they want trade value back for him, and it may be at a price that the Bulls at this current point don't really want to pay.
Yeah, and it's riskier too, because then you risk another team kind of jumping in line and showing the Pelicans something that they might find more intriguing than, you know, a marketing or whatever it is the Bulls would have to give up to get him.
Chris, you got any thoughts on this?
David Griffin is proven as a GM, but he hasn't shown me too much in New Orleans yet. Just, I mean, the Lakers deal was good. Brandon Ingram in particular, just about what we thought, and he's only going to get better. I don't know if he'll be LeBron, or you know, the second coming of insert name here, big guy who can jump in the NBA's past, but he's going to be a headline player for them. Out of that, with the Lewis, but he's a slasher. He's not a true point guard, and you know, they're looking at moving JJ Redick. So, from that perspective, they're kind of looking to get what they can get, I think, rather than necessary value. I mean, everybody.
Y'all hearing Chris?
Nah.
We have some issues with Chris there. We'll see if Chris can rejoin us, if he can get straight. But anyway, we'll have to pick it back up. I guess, you know, yeah, there definitely is some risk that's involved with waiting until the summer. And I guess, you know, the risk reward factor rewarded in that, though, would be not having to give up, you know, one of your guys, you know, possibly one of your potential core players here, and you know, be that a Laurie maybe, or you know, maybe even a Coby that they would ask for maybe. But it seems that a lot of attention though is as far as trades are going to for the Bulls are going to some of those. But like Drew said, with the YMCA guys, the older guys, like in particular Thaddeus Young and such. Let's see, Chris back.
Sorry, my internet connection looked like it was bugged out.
You sound good now.
I don't know how much y'all got, but I think with New Orleans in the position that they're in, they haven't gotten a team together yet where they can really bargain, come to the table with anybody from a position of leverage. I think they have guys that they want to move to who are at lesser value right now. Steven Adams is. We saw the best of Steven Adams in Oklahoma City at this point. JJ Redick's riding the bench. They've got something in Kira Lewis. Willie Hernan-Gomez looks lightweight decent, but you know, you might be able to move Eric Bledsoe for somebody decent. And Lonzo's their best trade chip right now. And even then, I would put the guys that the Bulls have over him, just because I wouldn't give up more than any combination of Garrett plus Thaddeus, or Thaddeus plus Otto, even a hurt Otto, or Lowry plus Garrett for Lonzo Ball. Part of that is because I don't like having a point guard who shoots 56% from the line, no matter how many good passes he can throw, because that's a liability in a close game at the end of a close game. If you have a guy that you can foul, who's going to have the ball in his hands no matter what, that's a liability to me, and I will forever hold that against Lonzo Ball until he improves his shooting. And it might be one small thing, but it's always going to be a big thing to me when you get in these games that are in the playoffs and they come down to free throws at the tail end. somebody's gonna get hacked if they can't shoot free throws.
Let's ask Giannis in Milwaukee.
Yes. And so I've always been low on Lonzo because of that. But he's a solid defender. He's a good distributor, and his 3-point stroke is decent.
He's improved. He's improved.
I just don't know. The only problem with the Bulls is that Lowry's hurt, Otto's hurt, and I don't want to give up on Lowry yet. So really the best guys that you have to trade are Temple, Thad, and Sato.
Yeah, that's what we was just about to get into before you came back on. Was like, it seems like a lot of the trade attention is going to the older guys, the YMCA guys, as Drew said, and those are. I mean, I guess those would be the guys that you want to sort of tempt contending teams with, because those are guys who have established pro reputations and they do specific things. They know that they know that they're role players. They're not trying to develop into bigger name players. They're not playing for big contracts. They know who they are. So I don't know. It is a precarious time for the Bulls, like you say, Chris. They have some players who they would like to see more of, but they can't see them because they're injured. But and also you're weighing your own ambitions. You're weighing against your own ambitions. Like, are we, just how much are we trying to play for the playoffs? None of us really know how much they're playing for the playoffs. We all have our ideas of what we'd like to see them do. Like, none of us probably are tripping if they end up in the lottery again. But the Bulls, maybe that's a no-go for them. Maybe that's, so maybe they don't want to get rid of nothing until the summer. And that's what, again, you have the whole issue of, do you make that gamble for restricted free agents or unrestricted free agents, as it were, in the summer? I don't know. It's interesting to think about, though, but we don't have access to all the thinking that's going on in the front office right now.
One thing I wanted to ask, because I saw Drew brought this up, and I don't know if it's something they could get in the draft, but if the Bulls had a guy who could distribute on the front court from that small or power forward position, a guy like a Jokic or even like Scottie Pippen was for the Bulls of yesteryear, I think that would really help free up the backcourt. I think Drew was spot on with that. I don't know who that guy is that you could get. If there's a guy like that in the draft that you would get in the first round, because I'm not with tanking. The Bulls tried to tank and they never got to the place where they wanted to be anyway. And now the rules are tighter so that you don't have that lock-on chance of getting in the top 2 or 3. So I don't see a point to tanking necessarily if you're just going to kind of slow play it and get in the lottery. But if the Bulls had a guy who could distribute from the forward spot, I think that would help them more.
Yeah, I know that this is not apples to apples. I think I think you're talking about more like a point forward type, because that's why Wendell Carter Jr.'s injury hurts even more so, because they were kind of using him at the elbow.
That's what I meant, like how they had Joakim at the working out of the high post.
And now they're doing it. I think they do that here and there with Thad, but Donovan already said he's not going to commit a boatload of minutes to Thad. And other than Thad and Wendell, we really don't have any other post players that can manipulate that position like that, or those responsibilities. Gaffer is not ready for that job yet. So we kind of just stuck with just passing the ball around and just the ball movement being crisp like it was against New Orleans. But as we've seen, like, every game is like a roller coaster ride with this team. You really don't know what you're gonna get. It seems that Zach and Thad are the most consistent guys that we have, and outside of that, it's like, man, who else is gonna score for us? Who's gonna play D? Well, Patrick Williams too. Throw him in there too. He's had a couple kind of rookie wall type games, but man, it's slim pickings in terms of help for these guys.
Yeah, and maybe that's the area again that they could, make something for themselves in the draft. Maybe a free agent in the coming summer. But yeah, that's definitely. I saw a nice video from this account Basketball Breakdown on YouTube, and I think I put it in your last CSE post, Drew. And it was making good it made a great comparison of the Bulls Bulls offense under Boylan and their offense now. You know, the upgrades and the improvements in the way that they've run their offense with Billy Donovan, and that was a particular highlight of that video was the way that Wendell was being used when he's available on the high post. And I didn't notice it as much when just in watching and observing the team, in live time. But that video it showed really well the possibilities that are there with him because he's of course he has his height, he can see well on the court, he has the penchant, the willingness to pass. He's not a ball hog guy, and he's a good team player in that way, and I could definitely see him being not necessarily as good as Joe Kim was in that role, but something close to it. But again, you have to have him available. If he's not playing, consistently, you gotta, you can't ever work him into that role because definitely that's a role where you need to be on the court more times than not, and you have to be a rock solid, reliable guy if the offense is going to run sets around you and stuff like that.
Yeah, this core group of guys, man, Otto Porter Jr. and Wendell and Lowry and Zach and Coby, man. Obviously, the writing's on the wall that all of these guys aren't going to be back, and I think like on their tombstone, on that core's tombstone, should read like unfulfilled potential, like whether it's coaching or injury, man. It just sucks that we weren't able to see that group play any type of meaningful minutes together because of the injuries that have ravaged that group, man. Otto Porter Jr., man, when he's in there, he's typically filling the role that they need him to fill, but just cannot escape those injuries. It sucks, man.
The injuries, and it sucked that we didn't get a real coach 2 years ago. That would have helped accelerate things quite a bit.
Was that the video you were talking about? Was that the one where they were showing how Boylan was having guys who can't dribble coming off screens and guys that can't popping out off a screen? Like, dude, I don't know if it's just laziness or you just really don't know your personnel, man. Come on, man.
He didn't know the personnel at all.
All he asked was 35 assists.
No matter how you get them, just give me.
No matter how you get it, just get 35 assists. You get 35 assists for win a game.
Right.
That's why they were so pressed to throw the ball, just throw it anyway. It was like we got to get them assists.
I just don't understand. Like I know we're in the age of analytics, but how can you tell a team, I don't want you guys taking any in between mid range shots? These are threes or layups. Like how do you do that? How do you just cut off such a big piece of the court?
If you're Daryl Morey, you say, hey, I don't want you guys taking any mid-range jump shots because we have these pieces of paper with spreadsheets that say this area is closed.
This area is closed.
This area is Venture. This area is Andriana Furs. This area is Kmart.
Oh, you did not just go Andriana Furs.
I love it.
This area is Omni. Y'all remember Omni? Y'all remember Cub Foods? It's closed.
Gold
Mike D'Antoni was there.
Gold Blast. Yes.
Yeah.
He said, Mike D'Antoni said, I'll give you a little bit, but you only had 7 seconds.
That's crazy. But he had Harden and the proper pieces around Harden. You know?
Right. That's the thing. People are trying to fit a lot of square pegs in the round holes with this. You got to take what you can get. Mm-hmm. And it's not like you're going to Brooklyn. If Steve Nash says, hey, all I want is for y'all to take 3-pointers, no matter what time of the game it is, they ain't going to win much. They're not winning that much now. You take Kevin Durant and say, hey, KD, don't shoot no mid-range, man. Don't do that.
That's a nice place to jump off to because I'm looking at these guys' results right now, and like actually yesterday the Nets in somewhat of a miracle gave up only 94 points to the Pacers, and let me see. Let me look at that. Let me look at that schedule once again. When was the last time before that they give up less than 100 points? January 25th, they gave up 85 to the Heat in the win. Since then, they gave up 128, 125, 149 to the Wizards, 120, 123 to the Raptors in a loss, 124 to the 76ers in a loss, 122 to the Pistons in a loss, and they beat the Pacers yesterday. I mean, what is up with that team, man? I mean, have they? I don't know. I don't know why the Pacers didn't score 100 yesterday on them, but you know that have they unlocked something? I don't think that's the case, but you know, what is up with that team, man?
They ain't got no defense. That's it.
Well, you think on sheer talent alone, they've all played on teams that have played defense. Like even Harden has played on teams that have played better. Like this is like you see all those numbers, man. Those are ridiculous numbers.
James Harden. Sorry, Josh. Go ahead. My fault.
No, it's all good, Chris. I just think they coasted, man. I just think they finally they know they got the three superstars. They got the arguably three of the top, arguably 5 to 10 best players in the league on one team. New system. You know, I think they're just coasting. They're just trying to get to the playoffs. Once they figure out to get to the playoffs, then it's like, all right, cool. Maybe after All-Star break, we'll still see them turn it around a little bit, get more in-depth and more serious, things of that sort. I just think they're just coasting at this point.
Yeah,
I'm sorry, Drew.
No, go ahead, Kyle.
I'm saying the sad thing is that they're still third in the East, so they probably could just do this for the rest of the season, get the third spot or even the fourth spot and have home court advantage in the first round and still feel like they could do whatever in the postseason. But go ahead, Drew.
Yeah, and I was gonna say I think it's a cultural thing too. I mean, you got other than KD, you got two guys that really don't play much defense and were maybe hitting a little bit on some of those past teams who had guys who kind of limit their deficiencies. KD was playing D on Golden State, man. Again, culture. It's a different type of setup, man. You got championship culture versus, you know, what Kyrie had in Cleveland before LeBron went there and whatever that was.
And in Golden State, you had a guy getting in his ass about playing defense that he wanted to get away from.
and on the bench, you got Steve Nash and D'Antoni who aren't known. You know what I mean? These aren't defensive guys. So I'm sure there's a part of them that feels like we're going to roll this ball out here and you better pray that you can keep up with us scoring-wise. We don't think you can, but you can try.
They gonna play this. They gonna play the rest of the season like the Entertainers Basketball Classic, man. they need to get a brother out there, a loudmouth brother with a mic on, you know, calling their plays on the court. And,
baby,
like and one tour real quick.
Right.
Oh my God, bring it back.
Playing Biggie over the PA system while they playing every play. They just, you know, they got to just make it a whole thing, man. You know, that's what they doing.
I mean, who were the guys that they had who could play defense? They let him go. I'm gonna say his name again. Always, Jared Allen.
Mm-hmm.
They let go Taurean Prince. I mean, Spencer Dinwiddie wasn't a known defensive guy, but they lost him for the season, which was unfortunate. Yeah. And even, you know, the guys on the wing who could stick some D, they aren't there. So you got DeAndre Jordan, who's for all his talents, is 32 now in a faster paced NBA, and Joe Harris. who's not out there to play D. He's out there to be a sharpshooter, man. So either James Harden is going to have to prove that his highlight against Luguentz Dort wasn't just a one-time thing, because Kyle, when you say you just roll the ball out there and outscore us, teams have tried that in the past when the NBA got fast-paced. Those 80s Nuggets, they tried it. Those who was it? The Run TMC Warriors, they tried that and they made the playoffs. And even with 3 superstars, the NBA has put such a premium on scoring that once you get to those first couple rounds of the playoffs, it's not a done deal, even if you have these guys. Now, KD will carry them. KD will, no disrespect to Kyrie Irving, disrespect to James Harden, but KD will carry them to at least the second round. But I don't necessarily think they can just coast on the fact that they can stand there and slug it out with cats. They're going to get hit with a body shot at some point that's going to fold them, and they won't be able to come back from it. Point blank, period. This Nets team is incomplete.
That's a good way of putting it, though, Chris. Incomplete, because we still have a second half of a season that includes a trade deadline, that includes buyout season. There's going to be some pretty, strong guys that are veteran players that can provide those defensive components, cover up the lack of what they're missing, and they have at least 3 roster spots to do that with. So depending on how that goes, you may get that additional help along the way, and that can completely change the direction and projection of where this team should be, which is championship or bust.
Yeah. And, just looking at elsewhere in the East, let's start at the top. Sixers, man, they still a couple weeks ago we sort of sized the Sixers up, and they were leading the East then, but we saw that their schedule was pretty lopsided in regards to them playing most of the games at home, and also lopsided in regards to them playing most of the games against the East. Well, you look at the last 9 games that they've played, they've gone 7-2, and they're engaging right now in the West Coast trip, and they've and they've played most of their games, I think, in this recent stretch against the Western Conference. They've gone, like I said, 7-2 in their last 9. They're still atop the East. Have y'all been paying attention in the past week or two with them? They seem to be holding on pretty good. I'm continuing to be impressed with them, and they play Portland tonight. They're at Portland. They got the Suns and the Jazz still to go as they make their way back east. Philly's holding up there.
It's that 708 effect, baby. Doc Rivers doing his thing up there. Maywood, baby.
You bringing that Maywood to him?
Maywood. So
Josh on one.
708, baby. We out here. So Doc Rivers has done a tremendous job with this team. And I say it's a Chicago effect because we know how Doc Rivers coaching-wise has been, especially in the regular season. But it's also a Chicago effect because effectively in the playoffs, Doc Rivers has been very inconsistent, including the fact that, he's blown 3-1 leads in the playoffs. So I look at this team as, okay, we expect them to do what they're supposed to do in the regular season. We expect them to maintain. We expect them to, improve over time. We expect them to ball out. But when these playoffs come, how deep they going? Who's going to be that GOAT? Is Joel Embiid going to keep up what he's doing now into the postseason? Is Ben Simmons going to show up to where if he can give more of an impact on an offensive game than he has been in past off seasons? Is Doc Rivers not going to blow any type of lead? Is he going to actually make coaching adjustments? These are things that, quite frankly, but especially on the superstars and top tier coaching levels, that in this combination and group of people have had on a consistent basis year after year. So for me, Philadelphia, I'm not surprised by what they're doing in the regular season. We expect that because that's what they're known to do. Even last year, I think they only lost like 3 games at home all year long. So that's a given. But what are they going to do in the playoffs? I need to see what they're going to do in the playoffs to see if this is really this year in this specific team, in this specific core group with this coaching staff is truly the direction that they need to go. Because If Ben Simmons, Joel Embiid can't cut it, at least go past the first or second round. You got to figure out what you're going to do next. That's going to be your next question. What are they going to do next?
Yeah.
Because this duo right now is not taking them as deep as they need to go. And past years have proven that. Hopefully maybe this year can be different.
The pressure's going to be on, and definitely when the playoffs get there. But with teams like this that have a certain breaking point, or they had a glass ceiling. We've seen teams like this before. They've had glass ceilings, and they had to break them through. A big part of that evolution of a team like that is role players who you get to surround those top guys with, who may have whatever deficiencies they may have in regards to play, but you still need a whole team. You need a complete team to make it. And I think it's looking like Seth Curry is that main guy. At least they've made a couple moves, but it looks like Seth Curry is that main additive that they've had this year. There's been a good bit of talk about him in the past couple of games. People are noticing that he is on pace right now to be the only guy in NBA history to do a 50-50-90, which is, like I said, that hasn't been done. 50-40-90 has only been done like eight times in the history of the league. But he's shooting 50 from the floor, 50 from 3-point, and 90 over 90 from free throw. So, like, Seth, man, he's making his way, and it's funny. Like, the big bro has come back this year. He's playing like his old self again. But Seth he may have a chance to make an impact too this year, with the Sixers. And I saw there's another tweet here for the win on USA Today highlighted this another tweet in a report about him that says they're 15-3 when he plays this year. So he's making an impact there with Philly, and that's just the type of thing. And you look too at the team that he left, Dallas, and they're struggling a bit. They're another team that's sort of a crapshoot, day in and day out, and part of that has to do with the shooting that they lost from Seth going away. So big up to Seth Curry, man. We had to play. If we had to put out a role player of the week, maybe that's something we should start doing, like a role player of the week or something. Like he's the one this week for that.
Family affair, brother. It's a family affair.
That's the Maury effect too, man. Get more shooting around Embiid and Simmons, and Embiid has been playing out of his mind. That has not hurt either. That dude is got to be top 2, top 3 in terms of early MVP candidates. He probably get my vote today. So as much as I love Jokic, I think you get what you might lose in the playmaking, passing. You get and then some with the defense with Embiid.
Who would you put as the third guy right now? I saw him talking on TNT the other day. They was bigging up LeBron a bit now. Is this another year where we're sleeping on LeBron?
No, I don't think we're sleeping on him, but I don't think he deserves to be. I know where are they? Are they first or Jazz? Jazz still are locked up that 1 seed right now, right? So Lakers are 2. No, I don't think LeBron. Kudos to him. Fantastic longevity is bar none, but I don't think he's top 3 in the MVP race right now. I don't have the stats right now to back it up, but I don't think he's at that level in terms of where he ranks among the best in the leagues, like in assists and points and all those usual suspect numbers that he has. I think Jokic and Embiid need to be ahead of him in this conversation. Maybe Donovan Mitchell.
That's something too. Like if you talk about Donovan Mitchell.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Kawhi
I'm saying, I'm just saying, that's something. Even if it's just those two, like, what was the last time you'd have 2 7-footers be top 3 in the? And 2 7-footers that are playing the traditional center position, being top 3 in MVP vote. If that was to happen.
Wow,
that's a good question.
Mm-hmm.
Man. Maybe it had to be if there was a year maybe either mid '90s with the Admiral and Hakeem,
yeah, or
if,
Admiral and Shaq.
if Shaq was when Shaq was getting MVP looks when KG won in 04, if Shaq had an MVP type season, but no, not for a while.
Yeah.
Who was the last center to get MVP? Is it that far off?
Is it KG?
Is KG the last?
Hmm.
Man, let me see.
Yeah, I would think it would be KG.
Unless you want to go the route of Tim Duncan.
Yeah, that's what I was. That'll be the other one.
Because I know everybody put him at the power forward spot, but
right.
He was kind of the center.
Yeah. Man.
This I want to just throw in the Sixers bench. I wanted to see what y'all felt about that because we talked about Seth Curry. My guy Shake Milton, I've always liked him since he came out of Southern Methodist. He's stepped up his scoring a lot this season, but it's kind of just a few more points, and he's not adding too much else on the sheet other than more scoring. He's only shooting about 30% from three. So their bench is kind of lackluster in Philadelphia past those two guys.
Oh yeah, we'll have to see. I mean, in the playoffs, the bench does shorten a bit, so maybe they won't need much more than that. But it would be nice to see more of a deeper bench mob type effort. You always like to see that type of thing from a contender.
Yeah, and not to mention as well, Tyrese Maxey. That brother right there gonna be big time. He's gonna be big time.
They got 5 players averaging double figures, and he's right there at I think 9 points a game. So
yes, sir. Yes, sir. He's gonna take his game to another level. He got the right brother to help him do that. So he got that. He gonna have that tough Maywood.
Okay.
Josh must got Doc on speed dial. He calling him Glenn on the weekends.
Right. He like big brother Glenn. He his mentor.
Hey. My Proviso East runs in my family. My mom's a graduate, so he's a Proviso East. I grew up in Maywood. Maywood's part of my life. I'm moving there, so it's like it's part of my life. So Proviso East. Doc Rivers came from PE.
We gonna have to see. Josh gonna be competing with Wilbon to see who drops the Doc Rivers name the most on TV. But that got me to thinking. You talking about Doc and his impact on the young guard. Let's talk about another Chicago, a true Chicago guy, and his impact on the young guard out in New York. Let's go into the Derrick Rose situation. Last week we gave our flowers to D Rose along with Ashish, who was a stellar performance in his first time running with us.
Has anybody checked on him now that he's actually in New York? That Rose really did?
Yeah, no, he said he didn't want it. He said he didn't want it.
Right,
maybe y'all see him on. I haven't seen him on Twitter recently.
I haven't either.
He may have to step back a little bit. He ain't want to say nothing to hurt anybody's feelings. But see, there may be some more. There is a little bit of that going on as far as the fans go, at least, because I think that the main issue is, D Rose's impact on the backcourt in New York, and a lot of the latest guy who they've fallen in love with has been Emmanuel Quickly. And I don't know how much attention y'all have given him, but apparently he's been showing some good stuff as a rookie. And what do y'all think? Like we talked about this last week with Rose. Like we wanted to see him go somewhere, and we wanted to see him, play on a more contending team, and he is. New York is definitely a contending team, more so than Detroit. They have a good chance to make the playoffs this year. You figure with Tibbs as their coach, Tibbs is going to maximize the wins from. He pretty much maximizes wins from any team that he coaches. So He's gonna squeeze out the wins that he need to get that team in the playoffs, and D Rose is gonna be part of that plan. But do you think he's gonna have a negative impact on this young guard out there who you can hardly tell what impresses New York fans. New York fans they get impressed by the wildest stuff. But I would guess that quickly. He's a Kentucky guy. Kentucky guards in particular usually ready to play in the league right away. So he's probably doing this thing. But do y'all think that Rose is in the right place for one? And is New York, but could he be hindering New York's development in any way in regards to, obviously Quickly's going to be the guard of the future, not D Rose. So, what do y'all think about that whole situation?
Man, look, personally, I am hurt that he did go to New York. I wanted to go to a better team where he can actually have a championship aspirations. I wanted him to at least try to get one ring before he goes out this league. But there's a quote that came, or a report and a quote that came from Ian Begley as of recent, who covers the Knicks and New York basketball very well, but for sure the Knicks for a long time.
Yeah.
I guess it came out today that Derrick Rose reportedly told the Pistons coach Dwayne Casey before he was traded that he said, "Coach, I've got so many miles. I've only got so many miles left in my legs. I want to make sure I go to a situation where I have the chance to make the playoffs this year." And I think in order for him to fulfill that, the most comfortable route for him to go was probably the Knicks because it's familiarity. And everyone knows that, like you talked about before, Tibbs knows how to get the best out of his players. Even when Derrick Rose was hurt during his time in Chicago, Bulls made the playoffs every year. Even with Lil Nate Robinson, we made it to the playoffs with him as our main guy. And on top of the fact that I think since Derrick Rose knows that he doesn't have much mileage left, the fact that he can go to a familiar place where he's already played in New York, he already played it with the Knicks before, so he knows New York as in general. He knows Tibbs. He knows that he's ready to take on this mentorship mantle from a veteran perspective. Because Killian Haynes, who was a point guard for the Pistons, the rookie that they drafted this year. He even talked about how learning from Derrick Rose was such a huge thing for him that really helped take his game to another level, even though he hasn't gotten as much experience on the court as of yet. So to have that for Immanuel Quickley, especially for Immanuel Quickley, I think it's going to be different than most point guards that Derrick Rose has worked with because he has the Calipari connection. Calipari coached, Derrick Rose at Memphis. Immanuel Quickley played under Calipari at Kentucky. So since they have that connection, Derrick Rose will know what are the right buttons to push to get someone like an Immanuel Quickley who has shown promise to that next level. And I don't think he will hinder him per se, because we know Tibbs is going to play to win, and he loves the heck out of Derrick Rose, so he may literally run Derrick Rose till his wheels fall off. But at the end of the day, the overall component of growth and being in the right environment to help accelerate that growth, Derrick Rose is one of the most ideal guys that you can play with. We have to remember, a lot of those players that are on that New York Knicks team, like the Julius Randles and such, they grew up watching Derrick Rose in the prime. They saw him do the things that he did with his MVP season and things and watch him go through his injury seasons and everything. So they're not just looking up to Derrick Rose as another player. They're looking to him as like an idol per se, as someone that's, like God in a sense for them, because of the fact that was one of the go-to players at that time during those age groups where they was like, wow, he's on top of the league. He's one of the best. So to learn from that and have that presence in your locker room on a daily basis, especially since we know how humble Derrick Rose is, how understanding he is, how much of a team guy he is, to have that under that familiarity with Tibbs and the connection with Calipari, I think that was just the right ideal situation for him, even though I personally wanted better for him. I think that was just the best fit for him for the overall projection of maybe how he even wants to end his career.
Chris, is he repping the foes now, man? He wearing the number 4, man. He switched. I thought he was folks, man. He repping the foes now.
Man, don't ask me about that, man. I'm a square, bro. I don't know nothing about this. Everybody was dropping all that Lori Moe stuff, and I was like, I don't know what y'all are talking about. He wearing the Travis Best number, and that's not even New York, man. I can't remember. I can't remember the last number 4 who played for New York. That's how.
Nate Robinson?
Nate
Did Nate wear 4? Did Nate wear 4 in New York?
Nate wore 4 in New York.
What did he wear? Did he wear 2? That's a good question.
He wore both, I think.
He did. Okay.
I thought
I was like, nah. I know he wore 4 in college, but hey, if it was Nate, that's fine. Josh makes a good point, and I think it's also because Tibbs in Chicago had a reputation that he didn't like to play rookies, but it seems like that softened. Quickly's played more than 3/4 of the schedule for New York, and he's done fairly well. It's so funny that the Knicks had all these power forwards. Everybody was like, "Oh, the Knicks have all these power forwards." The Knicks have a ton of guards too, and there's a lot of guys who are like Alec Burks and he's more of a swingman at 6'7", but Kevin Knox is kind of falling out of the wayside. Elfrid Payton's there, and if anybody who's going to get supplanted, it's those guys rather than Quickly. Like Josh said, Tibbs wants to win. More than anything else, he wants to put wins on the sheet. And if Quickly's helping them put points on the board and not a complete liability on defense, then he's going to get in the game and play. And New York, after all this time, Knicks fans want to see wins too. So if they can inch towards the playoffs, and if Quickly's the guy to help them do it, I think that he's going to see time. And Rose, everything Josh said is on point. Rose is a vet, and he wants to help guys get where they can. I think in terms of money, he's got enough money. I really think he does. He still has the Adidas deal in place. He's going to be able to watch his kids grow up. And, it's weird that we're talking about Rose like he's a friend of the family, but that's who he is to us, right? So the Rose that we know doesn't necessarily – he would like to win a championship. I think he's that type of competitor where he's still going to go to sleep thinking about winning a championship some nights, but there's some nights he just wants to see PJ get that college degree and do his thing. So however much time is left on his odometer, I bristled a little bit because he's 32 and I'm 32, and y'all were talking about him like he's about to retire, and I was like, damn, man, we're not that old. However much he thinks is left on his NBA odometer, he's going to play it out. But I don't think he'll take Quickly's minutes just looking at his stats if he's a guy who can contributes to the plan that in place.
If Rose coming towards the end of his career makes us all feel old. Because we all saw the beginning. We've seen the beginning, the middle, and the end with him. But I was looking up. Him wearing 4, and I guess part of it is that Reggie Bullock, who should unask that number to take some old New York slang. He could unask that number, 25 that he's wearing, and give it to Rose. But maybe Derrick is being polite. He just wanted to wear the number 4. Is this his 4th team? Is he was on the Bulls?
Yes, Minnesota, Jazz. Did he really play for the Jazz? Oh no, right?
No, they cut him when
he never played for the Jazz.
He played a couple for the Cavs.
Yeah, he played for Cavs. So Bulls, New York, Cavs, Minnesota,
Detroit.
Oh, but he's played more than 4 teams. I don't know what so it's not out there why he's winning number 4, but I'm sure he has his reason. But that was Derek Smith's number who got traded. So I guess the number was available. Maybe it was simple as that the number was available for him. So,
anybody else, the eyes well up looking at that picture of him and Jimmy in 2 different uniforms?
It's just you talk about missed opportunities we talked about earlier. Right?
Man.
That's a defining missed opportunity.
sometimes you just get snake bit. You know, those Cubs fans from the '80s can talk about it. You know, they were close, and it just didn't get there.
Yeah, every Chicago team got errors like that, unfortunately. But yeah, that was. But you know, as long as they feel good about where they at now, that's all that matters. We'll bear the brunt of the bad decision making that was done by Garpax. You know? But let's speaking of executive decisions, I want to go into this whole thing with Dallas and the national anthem, and that sort of started off the week as a big news story, and it got subsequently shut down by the league and Adam Silver, who said, we ain't offending no white folks, man. We ain't in the business of that, and I think it shows that there really isn't, as far as progressive thought goes, or just things that sort of left leaning thinking, or even if you want to wrap it into some pro-black thing or whatever, like there's no refuge of that in professional sports. It's either get down or lay down in regards to corporate sponsorship and good old American values and non-political correctness. You can't. These leagues are not, especially in this day and age, in a year where everyone is losing money and they're trying to welcome fans back. That's what it comes down to. They don't want people to go into these arenas and face themselves or face their country. They just want to do what's been done for decades on end, and just say, look, this is a safe place for you and your and your thoughts on America. Your as warped or misdirected as they may be, we got you. You don't have to face that here, even though it may offend our players, a certain number of our players, maybe most of them, even if it may, to me, it made, the whole issue. I could go on for a while about my thoughts on the anthem and this place in sports and stuff, but when I first saw that Cuban and this decision was made in Dallas, I was like, man, maybe this is the time that we can actually make a breakthrough with this. But nah, it's not happening. And I don't know what you guys think about that.
To that point, though, where you just left off, I thought this would be the perfect time to make a statement, because you talk about money, and of course, it's all about money. The All-Star game, them trying to throw in this slam dunk competition at halftime of the All-Star game. It's all money generated, or with money at the forefront. But yeah, I think they could have gotten away with it, because what sponsor is going to pull, knowing the reasons why the anthem's not getting played? Like, they're going to get backlash from that too. You know what I'm saying? Like, right. So I thought that this could have been another stepping stone from where the NBA and Adam Silver were in the bubble. All of the steps they took, this could have been another big one. I think it's funny that how many games passed before anybody really noticed? Like, if the national anthem
13, I believe.
Why did it take 13 games for you to notice that it was missing? I don't care.
That's the underlying thing about it. Yeah. That's the underlying thing about it. 13 games they played, 13 games. They didn't need it. Why do you need it going forward? And in general, I would just say, like, look, you should have the freedom to acknowledge it or not acknowledge it. Yep. Like, and this goes back to go to Chris Jackson, to his thing on the court directly with the flag and with the anthem, and he didn't want to. He didn't even really disrespect it either. He just prayed during it, and people had issue with that. If you're a team, if your team, your organization, and you feel that you don't need it at your games, you should be free to not have it at your games. If you're a player and you want to kneel, and technically they allowed people during the bubble to kneel because there was so much attention on the bubble and what all they were doing in the bubble. But now that they're trying to get everything back to normal, it's like, straighten up and fly right. So it's, I just think you should allow people to have freedom. We talk about what the flag means and what it's supposed to represent. Let the brothers have the freedom to acknowledge it or not acknowledge it.
That's a good point.
I wonder what Mahmoud Abdul-Rauf would feel if he was playing these games today. And he's been protesting all this time. And let's just say he was on the team where he was protesting and they weren't playing the national anthem. And then all of a sudden you get a memo saying you can't protest, you can't do X, Y, and Z anymore because you got to play this anthem. It's a given. Like, I wonder how that reaction will be even in today's era. Because what blows me with the NBA, especially as a recent, because Kyle, I've been a huge advocate for the NBA and their social justice movements. But at the end of the day, especially since this pandemic, how much of when does money overrule the values that you represent, that you want to represent for yourself? Like, if you, as a league, you've pretty much made it known that, especially in a players' league like the NBA, you've made it known that athletes can have the right to do X, Y, and Z. They can do what they can have their own platforms. They can do whatever they can to give back to the community, and they'll assist them in every way, shape, or form. If the issues still remain, and that includes one of the original issues that white America has made it, which is the flag itself. Why is it that now it's a problem when the issue has never been resolved? Like, that's what kills me. You can't start a movement and join a movement, especially as big as the NBA did, with like with the bubble, the protesting in the bubble, kneeling during the national anthem, being able to protest and lock arms and show signs of unity and things of that sort. Was that actually a movement, or was it just for show now? Because now these issues still aren't resolved. What those issues that you were fighting for and showing solidarity with at that time are still happening today. And at this point, there has been no change. So what's stopping you from allowing athletes to continue to show how they feel, especially in a league that is predominantly black? Like, it's
a league this league is built off black labor. It is powered and marketed largely through black creativity. And I think to not allow black people in this league to have the at least the option to be able to act the way they want and acknowledge the flag if you want. If you don't want to acknowledge it, then you shouldn't have to be forced to be able for Silver and the league to say, look, we gonna have this, you're gonna do this, or you're gonna be fined, or you're gonna be dealt with by the league. I think it takes some balls for them to do that. Like you said, Josh, especially in the wake of what happened last year, in particular in this recent history that they've had, where they tried to purport themselves as being active allies for Black Lives Matter and for pro-black civil rights rooted movement. You can't do those things and then just be so restrictive in this instance. I think it's hypocritical at the least.
Would it help matters if them going back to playing the national anthem? If they do that to appease the part of the contingency that wants to still use that as a symbolic gesture for their love for their country, but they also still allow players to, like you said, Kyle, to be able to kneel, lock arms, whatever they want to do. If we don't hear anything,
that's what I'm saying.
Yeah, you just let everybody just do what they want in terms of
allow the choice,
acknowledge it or not, right?
Allow the choice, and beyond that, though, the thing with Dallas and Cuban that spoke to this is that he said that they have had conversations within their organization and within their community regarding the way that the anthem and the presentation of the anthem before game, the way it makes people feel. So I'm guessing that they talk to black people within their organization, players, and hopefully beyond the roster, people, black people, and other people who are in the organization, and people who are in the community of Dallas or whatever, because that's the community that's largely feeding into their stadium. Hopefully if you have a conversation to that degree, and you find that the people who you represent as a team, as a franchise, your constituents, as it were, if they feel that, look, we don't need the anthem at our games, then you should, as an organization, you should be able to say, look, we don't want to do this before our games. We will have some other acknowledgement. We'll have our own acknowledgement or whatever. We want to play the Black national anthem, we'll play that. But or if we want to play, we want to play Aqua Boogie by Parliament Funkadelic, we'll play that before the game, because that's essentially what you can play anything. All you're doing is playing a song before a game. We don't have any ritualistic thing before entertainment that we will have to play a song before. Not even that anthem. It's not played before movies. It's not played before plays. It's not played before award shows. Why does sports have to carry this baggage and this weight with our militaristic jingoistic past? It doesn't make sense to me.
And that speaks to the hypocrisy, because the same people that want this anthem played are the same people telling athletes not to politicize sports.
Yes. Stick to sports. Yeah. Are we sticking to sports or not?
Right. I mean, and I think it's very important to highlight, the Mark Cuban effect, because Mark Cuban has been known to be a proponent for his players, but at the same time, I think, especially since he had that scandal in his front office and within his organization as a whole, that with the sexual harassments and things of that sort, I think it really brought an extra light to his advancement of what it means to be a people person. And he took that to another level, to where now he's not only speaking out for everybody, including black civil rights and everything, but he's actually called out politicians. He said, F Trump on Jamil and Carrie Champion stick to sports show. You know what I mean? Like, he's talked to these people to be a true American citizen that is sensible, that is very sensitive to minority issues, and that's part of those issues. He's actually been a proponent for Colin Kaepernick and things of that sort. And we have to remember, none of this would have happened if it wasn't for Colin Kaepernick. So, if you want to talk about the real root of where the problem is, the problem obviously still remains. They don't understand what it truly means to protest. They don't truly understand what it means to fight for social justice, especially in the minority, in the black and brown communities. And they don't know even where to begin, and even how to resolve those things, because they don't even want to open themselves to the idea of relativity, or open themselves to the idea of unity if it doesn't bother their top dollar. And now, because it's bothering their top dollar, now they got a problem. Now they got to scale back, because Master has other companies. Master has other sponsorships that's controlling how much revenue we can bring in. So you have to, you can't play a fine line. It's either one or the other, or you got to find a way to where, if you want to make it a fine line, it got to be better than what you just did by putting a restriction on what you can and cannot do from a protest perspective, which is very similar to what the NFL tried to do, especially since Colin Kaepernick did his protest.
Yeah. Chris, you got anything? You've been a little quiet.
Personally, I remember feeling a lot of pride when I was in Boy Scouts, especially in hearing the national anthem. It felt like it really meant something, especially when it got to the home of the brave part was something that always really struck me. I remember really feeling that in my heart.
I mean, you should.
Like
You're a Bradley Brave, bro.
Right. I mean, like, especially once I got to college, that was the part. That was the thing. That was our thing. It was like home of the Braves, and everybody shouts Braves.
Yep.
And then subsequently, in the last 15 years, it's come to the meaning is changed implicitly. Like the country was always built off some sort of bravery, right? But that bravery was, slaves knowing that no help was coming and tomorrow might be the last day, but still kind of facing upward towards with some sort of hope that the next people might make it, and so on and so forth. And immigrants who came over from China and East Asia and the West Indies for the same thing, and then just black women and oppressed people of the 20th century, gay and gender queer people now who have been fighting the same fight over and over and over and over. And I always kind of juxtapose that with the line before it, the land of the free. And they come at kind of opposites. They're always butting up against each other. Those brave people aren't necessarily the people who are free. And so it becomes the song itself was always kind of like, I think somebody mentioned outside of here, there's had to be somebody at home because I haven't really been out of the house, the Pledge of Allegiance, how we always had the Pledge of Allegiance in school. And that was,
Sure.
When you look back, that's kind of weird, right? I mean, the song itself is kind of used as nationalist indoctrination, propaganda, what have you. It doesn't make it necessarily untrue. Like people who went to war, who came back not knowing what they were going to get, or who ended up getting the same raw deal they got before they left, still brave. But I don't need the song anymore. I don't feel the same, other than the fact that I feel pride in those brave people who are still fighting. That's the only thing it reminds me of, and I don't need a song to remind me of that specifically. So there's really no reason to play it. There really hasn't been a reason to play it other than to remind everybody that this is the country that you live in, and you better, those love it or leave it bumper stickers that assholes have on the back of their trucks. I don't know if y'all watch Brockmire, the show with Hank Azaria, the baseball show, but they had a surreal moment in their last episode of the final season, the series finale, where there's this technology that's invented that's kind of like Alexa or Siri, but that everybody wears and they're almost in like a VR state. And because of the fact that they've got these earbuds in, these sunglasses on, beaming them information at this baseball game, that's the first time that the people actually stop where they are en masse for the national anthem being played, instead of just being like, well, I'm not in my seat, I'm just not. I'm going to go do something else. So that's really the only, that fantasy world of a sitcom is the only time that would actually happen anyway. I'm in roller derby. Roller derby teams have stopped playing it a couple of years ago now. And other than fighting the same fight with people who in roller derby who also would have cross-referenced with the people who were at that insurrection, things haven't really changed that much. So you don't need to play it.
And I think we talk about indoctrination and feeding people a certain thing, a certain ritual, or certain ideas that we want them to have. Like a lot of my feelings against the anthem are in regards to reprogramming people in this country. Like I've covered a lot of sporting events, and I've seen a lot of different reactions to the anthem. And I've covered events, big events and small events, and I've been able to observe people in the way that they react to the anthem. And a lot of ways is a lot of people. It is a natural. It is a honest or earnest reaction to something in their life that connects them to the flag. Just them being a United States citizen themselves, sacrifices that maybe people that they know in their lives have made, people who've gone off to war and died, and stuff like that. Just good, real true to life gratitude and positive feelings. But we also have too many people in this country who hate. They think you're a jerk off if you don't take your hat off during the song, or if you don't put your hand on your chest. They want to smack you upside the head. I've seen people do that to kids or people, because I've worked in rural Wisconsin and I've seen, ignorant people just like I'm sorry, just straight up ignorant people react hostile to people to other people who didn't acknowledge the flag the way that they feel you should acknowledge the flag. And it's like, what are we here? What are we this nation of free men and women that we say we are, or are we just another, a nation that strong arms people into feeling a certain way? And I just think that if we're going to live up to our ideals and our better angels as a people, as a society, we gotta rethink the way that we approach things like the national anthem, and we gotta reapply that sort of energy of nationalistic energy to better, just in the better ways and better. There's much more productive things we could do with that energy instead of they browbeating people who don't feel welled up when they see a flag. It's just a freaking flag. It's just a freaking song at the end of the day. But anyway, I just want to get that out for this show. And the NBA, like I said, they disappointed me with that. And hopefully at some point we can move on from that way of thinking. But let's I guess we're getting close to the end here for this week's show. And I did want to throw out some college stuff. I guess you guys say you're not as boned up on the college stuff as you like to read, but I just want to, I guess in general, I just want to mention the two teams that are in the top 25 right now. I want to mention two teams locally for us who are in the top 25 that we have connections to. Of course, U of I is number 6, and a lot of people are looking at them as a possible national championship contender. And Loyola is a team, of course, they had their wonderful, Cinderella run a few years ago in the to the Final Four. They really just come into the Missouri Valley Conference and really just knock down the buildings on everybody. And like, how the hell did Drake get so good this year? Like, they're playing 2 games this weekend, Loyola and Drake. Like Loyola, at least we've seen their development. But Drake came out and God bless Valparaiso for knocking them off. But, because I knew they had to lose. They had to lose eventually. I saw them when they knocked. I saw Drake when they beat SIU, and I was like, where they get these dudes from, man? It's like, come on, man. But anyway, like,
Corver brothers.
Corver brothers, yeah. We used to hate them odds though.
Who was it?
Kyle
Corver and Clay Corver.
Clay Corver. When the Creighton was still in the league. Like, I had nothing for Kyle Corver. I hated that we shared a name.
I think they had Tolliver too,
until he played for the Bulls. I had nothing.
They did have Anthony Tolliver. They did.
Yeah. So I mean, that's we know MVC. You get some good ball in MVC, and Drake and Loyola looking to compete as tournament teams for the league this year. But I like I said, I like Loyola. I root for them. I root for Illinois as well. They're the first team that really got me into college basketball back in the day. So I always root for them. I remember what it was like in 05. Like being at I was at SIU, but SIU was all the whole state was pretty much rooting for Illinois in that team that year, and it was like they haven't done anything since. Now they got two legitimate pro players this year, and it's weird too. You think of the impact of COVID and the shutdowns and the pandemic and stuff. If I would think if last year played out regularly, and you had U of I they would have made the tournament last year, and who knows how far they would have went. But I would think if they went to the tournament last year, and Io and Kofi got their experience in the tournament, and they played out however they went to Sweet 16 or whatever, they probably would have dipped, and then they'd both be probably riding the bench right now in the league somehow. Or if they made second round even draft picks, but instead they didn't go to the tournament. They didn't have that experience. They decided to come back. They're both top 20 players in the nation, and Illinois is a top 10 team. And it makes a difference. They could really make a run in the tournament this year. But I don't know. You guys got any thoughts on those guys?
I'm super happy Illinois is up that high, man. I've been all those years of losing to Arizona and Duke, and then losing to North Carolina in the final. I don't think this is a college finals team. I don't think this is an NCAA finals team. But for them to be number 6, they could at least make the Elite 8 without too much mystery. And I would love to see that. I've been waiting for Illinois basketball to get back on top, man. And even though Loyola's a rival of my school, I'm happy that Loyola got on. When they went to the Final Four that year, I had just broken up with my girlfriend, and she went to Loyola. So for 2 months, I had to be constantly reminded of that breakup. outside of me already, let's not get into that. But it was really cool.
That sounded a little rough there, man.
Yeah,
it was really cool though. Like Loyola is the only team from Illinois to ever win the championship, and then they were the only team in the last prior to that 10 years since Illinois to get to the Final Four. It was really cool to see that. And now the Missouri Valley, we're not getting into that yet, but Drake let their top player transfer to Minnesota, Liam Robbins, and they're still defeating nearly all comers. That's a hell of a story.
Yeah.
All I got to say is it's a shame that Bradley made the tournament last year and they couldn't play.
Yeah, look. Last year was gonna be dope because you would have had
was gonna be so good.
You would have had Bradley, U of I, Loyola, probably, maybe, and like DePaul was,
and
decent.
DePaul too.
Yeah, but and then going back to the beginning of the year, like what the hell happened to DePaul? Beginning of a show, what the hell happened to DePaul? But I don't know. It's we always talk about there's so much talent in this area, and we should be having a lot more say in regards to college basketball. But it took a lot to get these two teams in position where they can say they're somewhat contenders this year. And I think Illinois, the thing about the tournament, we've seen teams that have had pretty much one guy carry them. Like Carmelo, probably is the best example back in 03. Yeah, 03. And but like I said, the U of I got 2 pro dudes. So I think the thing is, you got to, if they both are feasting, they'll show a lot in this tournament coming up, in the Big Ten tournament, and we'll see some more of what they can do in that sort of environment. I think it'll help too, the fact that the tournament is being played completely in Indiana. So Illinois is going to be one of the teams that has to travel the least. So instead of going to some divisional out west or to the south or something, they gonna be just next door. So I don't know. It could that's something that could work in their favor. And we Drew mentioned earlier, like Gonzaga's probably ahead an inch above everybody else. Baylor too maybe, but Baylor's play. But a lot of these teams like are popping up right now. It seems like there's some. I'm trying to let me get the top 25 up. Like there's some teams that are showing out, and I think it may be more of a challenge to get through this tournament than we looked at, maybe a few weeks ago. When you look at the teams that are, sort of coming into their own, like maybe a Villanova, or Ohio State, which is Ohio State and Michigan, of course, are the only teams ranked above. Two more Big Ten teams that are ranked above Illinois. 3 Big Ten teams in the top 6. Big Ten is definitely the best conference in the nation right now. Yeah, and again, this is something that we talked about a few weeks ago. The real blue blood teams that you were typically used to seeing in the tournament, very few, if any of them, are going to be in there this year. Duke is looking like they're not going to be in there. Kentucky only has 5 wins right now. Kansas got a big win. That's one thing that set me off to thinking about college ball this week. Kansas fell out the top 25. They should be getting right back in, though, because they beat Oklahoma State and Cade Cunningham on Monday. So they should be getting back in the top 25. They're a tournament team. UCLA looks like they're probably going to be a tournament team. But to have a year where Duke, Kentucky, and maybe North Carolina don't make the tournament, it shows that a lot is gone upside down in college basketball this year. And there may be another year where anything could happen. But again, Gonzaga and Baylor, they're both undefeated. Neither one of them is lost yet. But I think look out. Michigan need some more games. They went like 3 weeks without playing under COVID, but they need to get some more games under their belt. But I like Villanova. I like U of I, of course. Virginia may be a tough team too, coming out the ACC. Even though like I said, their competition in the ACC isn't as tough as it usually is. But it's going to be interesting to see what happens.
Yeah, none of to your point, none of the 13 programs, the 13 most winningest programs are ranked in the top 25 right now. So that speaks to the parity. If there was going to be a year where a surprise team could sneak in there, this is the year. This is the year to do it.
Yeah.
And we a little bit about Gonzaga and their strength of schedule. Part of that is due to COVID and just its effect on this season in general. But they haven't had a rough.
They just run over that West Coast Conference every year. They don't have much competition in that conference.
Yeah, the 23rd ranked strength of schedule, while Illinois has the second. That speaks to how crazy how much of a gauntlet that Big Ten is. Well, let's see what happens.
Yes, indeed.
Yeah, it's pandemic upsets. It's been that way. We didn't talk about women's, but there's been like ranked teams getting beat nearly every night. They started the season like that. UConn lost a surprise game. South Carolina lost a surprise game, and it's been like that all season. So on the men's side, I think it's like we said earlier, teams just aren't playing games. They don't have games to play. So you're seeing teams just not with a chance to go on, but also teams like Indiana, who have been trying to get back on their feet for a long time. Kentucky, I feel like goes through these ebbs and flows anyway. If not Calipari, then the school themselves. But no North Carolina.
They haven't been this bad in a long time.
That's a fair play. Since like Billy Gillispie days.
Yeah, I can't remember the last time I've seen them I can't remember ever seeing them with 5 wins in February. Like, and part of that, of course, is canceled games, but they played enough games where they could. That they're like 5-14 or something, 5-13-14. Like, it should be the other way around, you think? And that's with a bad Kentucky team.
Yeah, I mean, it hasn't affected the major conference players. Like, you're still seeing a lot of the usual suspects that we've seen over our lifetimes, and then over the last few years: Oklahoma, Virginia, Houston. Texas Tech being in the top 10 is kind of a surprise. I kind of expected them to fall back a bit after their Final Four run with Jarrett Culver, but they're still hanging around.
We've talked before about transfer. They got Mac McClung from
Georgetown.
Georgetown, yeah.
Oh, that's right.
What's that white boy rapping that Barlow? Jack Barlow? That's
Jack Harlow.
Jack Harlow. Yeah, that's Jack Harlow of college basketball. He's played well there. Like, you know,
it's a really interesting college season, man.
Yeah, and you mentioned Connecticut. Like, Connecticut, them getting back in the Big East was one of the things that made me anticipate this college basketball season. You know, the men's and the women's team. And I know Connecticut just beat, like you mentioned, some of the losses at the top. They just beat South Carolina in that 1-2 matchup. You think they're better off being in the Big East as that program, Chris, the women's program in particular?
I'd have to look back, because I think they were in that American Athletic Conference that was created after the Big East went all Catholic.
Yeah,
just because that conference shifts so much, and the Big East teams, no matter what, they're more. Even the school that they brought in from other conferences like DePaul and Xavier and Providence Providence was in the old Big East. Creighton. Those schools have been geared for basketball for a while. So even though they decided to go with all Catholic universities, those were universities that were also good for basketball, like Butler. You haven't heard too much about the women's programs outside of a couple seasons in DePaul, but I do think it's better for them. And Marquette's had a nice women's team over the last, I think, 10, 15 years. So it's better. They're going to have better competition, as much better competition as UConn can have within reason, without going to, say, like maybe the ACC. And I don't think that UConn's ever going to really go to the ACC, even though they've got Boston College, which is relatively close. It just doesn't seem like a move that they're ever going to make. So it's definitely better for them. It's better for the conference overall. And there was a nice story printed up over the last weekend in the Sun-Times Sports Saturday about DePaul's history playing UConn and how they came the closest that they've ever come to beating them in, I think, ever, when Allie Quigley was still in school. And that's good for DePaul basketball fans that's been the centerpiece of their athletics program, that they can look forward to that matchup, those two matchups every year, as, hey, maybe this is the time.
Well, shout out to Doug Bruno, man, and at least they doing something with the women's team. They got to give Josh something better to talk about on Good Morning DePaul.
On kind of a side note, still staying in college, man, I'm seeing that Valparaiso is dropping Crusaders as a team name, mascot, and on all logos, because the term is being embraced or had been embraced by hate groups.
Yeah, that idea of a crusade, man.
Interesting.
So what they're replacing it with?
The tiki torches.
No, what's that? Is it Valparaiso? Valparaiso has a popcorn festival. They could be the Orvilles, the Orville Redenbachers. I went to that with my mom once. It was decent. It was some good popcorn.
Popcorn. Okay.
It's Indiana, man. You know.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. You gotta do something in Indiana.
Josh, I don't know yet. This story on Sports Illustrated doesn't say anything just yet. It's only 2 hours old, so
Gotcha.
still developing.
Well, there's always the Wildcats. They could be
the default name.
Yeah, that's the default name. That's
Yo, there's a quiz website that I like, and I just took one. There was like the most used mascots for high school: Wildcats, Tigers, Lions, Eagles. They're always out there.
Yep.
Right.
My nephew, he's in Marion, Illinois. And he was playing somewhere, man, high school basketball, and the team he was playing was nicknamed the Orphans. Was it Centralia? Who was he playing, man?
I think I know that school you talking about. Yeah, that's yeah.
I think that.
Yeah,
it's crazy, man.
Centralia Orphans basketball.
Orphans.
You know, a lot of those like old nicknames. Like if you go to the UK, teams are the Wanderers. Usually they call them that because they didn't have a place like a set stadium to play in. And I wonder if that's what it was. They just they had to play like in random gyms.
The Vagabonds.
Serious. Oh no! A Chicago sports writer likened the basketball team's uniforms to the tattered clothing of orphan children. That's bogus as hell.
That is bogus, man. You don't know what these kids been through.
That ain't keeping that thing, man. Man. You got a team called the Group Home Kids in the
Shout out to Vic Spencer.
Yeah. Shout out to Vic.
Gosh.
Oh man, it's been another fun Running with WARR episode. Anything else y'all got on your minds, man? Y'all want to throw out real quick before we head out?
Cancel that All-Star game.
Yeah, it looks like they're just adding to it. They're going to squeeze, like Drew said, they're going to try to squeeze a slam dunk contest into
at halftime. Come on, man.
I mean, what is the winner gonna get? A free special order of new wings, special wings?
Josh,
like
they'll get a coupon.
Right, you get a free coupon. Buy one get one free. Like what?
Yo, you gotta have a counter up for every time Josh mentions Lou Will.
How many fans are gonna be there? Have they said that? How many fans are gonna be there?
I mean, it's Atlanta. They might as well open up the whole stadium.
Do they have rules? Are the Hawks allowing fans in games? Oh, they got.
They are.
Yeah, remember the courtside cameras?
Yeah, I just remembered that. Yeah,
She's gonna be the one catering the meal.
It's gonna be a whole new strain coming out that day, man. Watch that whole weekend.
She's gonna be the one model to carry out the wings.
Yeah. Be wearing a Proud Boy shirt or something.
Oh my goodness gracious!
My thing is, how can you have a slam? You can't have a slam dunk contest at halftime. The halftime's gonna be an hour because can't nobody make a dunk on their first try anymore. Like,
yeah,
why would you try to have a slam dunk? You're not gonna be having any dunks to judge. I don't know. NBA, man, y'all got to clean up your stuff, man. I think they've been making some so ideas in recent times, man. We have to focus more of our attention on the WNBA, Chris.
Free agency went nuts today.
What's going on?
Probably one of the top 3 defensive players. Seattle traded to the New York Liberty, Natasha Howard, for the number one pick and some other draft picks, and then Seattle flipped that number one to Dallas for our old friend Katie Lou Samuelson.
All right,
and a second round pick. I can't think of the last time we heard about the number one pick in any major men's sport changing hands twice in a day.
Wow, yeah.
But Seattle is gambling
over there in WNBA. And that's the team that just won. Like, what they doing?
Yeah, that's what they were far and away the best team, and they gave away their best defensive, maybe the second best defensive asset, because Breanna Stewart plays two ways. But that's a gamble, man.
Maybe
and then they gave
too
away
much of a challenge. they want to make more of a challenge.
Yeah, let's spice things up a little bit. Let's go get the number one and then trade it.
I know it's getting late. This kind of on topic too. How would y'all feel about, let's say, just NBA draft? If instead of it being, the worst teams getting the best picks, you invert it where the teams who are closest to making the playoffs, the first team that just got the first team that is out of that field, second team, third team, those are the ones that get the top picks. How would you feel about that?
Well, you're like encouraging teams to try,
not to compete.
And your reward for if you don't make the playoffs, but your reward for getting close is that first pick. That's
that's like an upside down pyramid scheme, man.
That's interesting. I've never heard of that sort of.
I mean, I haven't either. I'm just trying to process this thing. I'm like, that's not like upside down.
I heard it on the radio like a couple of weeks ago, and I meant to bring it up last week. And it came back across my mind today.
But I understand what he's saying, though. But I don't know. Like, I think in sports is like, they're so used to that sort of welfare programming, like where you get the very worst teams get the best offerings. But I don't know. A lot of people do. I'm not sure where I'm at completely on that way of thinking, but because I do think like you want to give the worst teams chances at the best talent to try to redo themselves, but also the worst teams are the worst teams for a reason, and usually that has to do with their organization as a whole. So you can give some organizations great players year after year, and they still gonna screw them up. And not all that does is lead these great players to having a lot of their early years or even their prime years, being stuck on a bad team, and then 6 or 7 years into their career, we're like, we're all talking about them like we're talking about Bradley Beal now. Get them somewhere else. So I don't know. No, then you have the people who think like, well, let's blow it all up and not have drafts and let players be able to on the free market, coming out of wherever. I don't know. But I think that's an interesting idea, Drew.
It'll give us a lot more to talk about, so that's fine by me.
Right. As long as we got something to talk about. That's all. We'll see what we got to talk about next week. We'll be back. Some of us will be back next week. I may not be back next week. But that's
it's like to drop some heavy stuff down.
No, I'm doing the Magic Johnson. Be like, I ain't gonna be here. No. I'm not saying I might just take a week off or so. That's all I'm saying.
Okay.
But the show will be back next week.
All right, LeBron.
At least. Yeah. Right. I am a LeBron. I'm taking I can call my shot. So if I want to take a week off, I take a week off.
LeBron will be proud.
Right. Empowerment, brother.
I gotta get it somewhere, man. I gotta empower myself sometime. But anyway, the show will be back next week, and we'll have some more fun as we can here on WARR, on Anchor, WARR on YouTube, and you see the tags there with our guys. Follow them online and get more foolishness from them throughout the week. You know, pick your spirits up with our guys all across the internets. And we'll be back next week, and keep checking out all our good material and content on WARR on Anchor, like I said, WARR on YouTube, WARR Ready, our Substack page, and of course weareregalradio.com. But until then, keep bouncing, y'all. Keep warm. I'm sick of this cold, sick of this snow, and stay out of it as much as you can. But we'll see y'all. Keep bouncing, y'all.
Peace.